Welcome back. My name is Ron, and I'm going to get you some results. So, if you like the content I'm creating, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And today is going to be my take on just a few lines from this, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This book is several thousand years old, but it literally changed the face of warfare forever. So, as I've mentioned in a previous video, books in general are not valued by the vast majority of people. But that's a good thing for people who do like them, who do use them, because it makes them cheap. Like the books, The Art of War was $4. $4 for one of the greatest books ever created by humankind. And now, from here on out, I'm going to change the concept, because it says The Art of War. But the vast majority of people that will watch this video are not concerned about warfare. They're concerned mostly about getting some results, getting some victories. So you can even call it the art of opposition, because the concepts in the book are based on human psychology and just practical applications. So when it talks about battlefields, anything could be a battlefield. A workplace environment can technically be a battlefield, you know, if you define it that way. It doesn't have to be like land on the ground where you have to, like, two armies are you know, marching on. It does not have to be that at all. This is a philosophical book as much as a literal one. So from here on out, I'm going to apply this to the areas that I have used it the most successfully. And obviously, since I'm not a soldier, I'm not really dealing with open warfare. However, opposition. So the first line I'm going to talk about is, know your enemy and know yourself, and in 1,000 battles you'll have 1,000 victories. So what does that mean? How does that apply to you? Well, you see, if you know, for instance, who you are, what you're capable of, where your strengths are, and where your weaknesses are, then you can cater the encounters to that. So if you know who your enemy is, if you know what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their psychology is, you can actually, it's like a tool. If you know what a cat is, if you know how a cat acts, you know that if you run a string across the ground, that cat is almost certain to chase it. So you use those concepts. If you know this type of person, you know, you throw a few tests out there to see how they respond to different stimuli, then you know what kind of person you're dealing with, and then you use that knowledge to your advantage. For instance, if they are like a high-end micromanager that wants to basically, you know, use you to make themselves look good, you study micromanagers, how to defeat them. And from what I've been taught about that, how you defeat a micromanager is you do exactly what they ask, give them exactly what they ask for. And I do mean exactly by the letter. You literally overwhelm them with their own nonsense. Because a micromanager likes to micromanage every little thing about you. I mean, they want to, like, that's why they call micromanager, because they're managing even the smallest aspect. So they tell you to do something, you give them everything to the letter. And then you ask them a million freaking questions on top of that. It's like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? How should I do this? How should I do... You literally overwhelm them by using their own psychology against them. They can't help but want to manage every little aspect, and you're just, it's like, here's some more. Oh, you think that's enough? Here's some more, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more. And they're just like, it throws them off balance, and they don't really realize what you're doing. That's the beauty of it. Every time I've applied this, they just don't understand, they just flow with it. And you're the one actually in control. You're the one dictating the situation, you know, the flow of events. And at a certain point, they're just, you know, they're unstable, they're wobbly, and you just kind of like push them off. And then you just like go around them because you've planned all this ahead of time, because you know who they are and you know what you're capable of. So that's what it's talking about. It's like, do your research, test the people that you're against, opposition-wise, and, you know, cater the environment, the events to your advantage. And you will be absolutely amazed at the kind of results you get. Because never, not even once, has any person in my entire life realized when I've done something like this. They don't. People on the outside, like, looking in, be like, they see something's up, but they don't quite understand it yet. The person that I'm actually doing it to never notices it, because no one studies this stuff. The people who study this stuff are really, really high-end stuff. They're really successful because these are tools. Like a hammer is a tool that you can use it to kill, or you can use it to build a house. I mean, what are you going to use it for? So let's, moving on from that. The next one that I've applied consistently is never attack your enemy where they're strong. Always attack them where they're weak. And that may not be a direct quote, but it's basically the line. Well, that makes perfect sense. Like if your opposition is like, say, a boxer, and you are not, would you step up to this person with your fists up and try to box them? If you do, you're insane. You're gonna lose. There's no question about that. What if they're like a professional race car driver, and you're not? Are you gonna challenge them on their battlefield? Are you gonna like, let's race? Or you think you're gonna win? This person puts a lot of time, effort into mastering their craft. This is where they're strong. Do not approach them where they're strong. If this is an opposition situation, go around the side. Go around to a weak area. And this again has to do with observing somebody, watching somebody, finding out about them, discover their personality. If they're strong in one area, where are they weak to? And then if their weaknesses line up with your strengths, you have a method of attack. And that's what you do. It's like, and if it, like, certain times I've been against people, and I come at them in a weak area, and they immediately try to shift it to a strong area. They don't really actually realize what they're actually doing, but they're doing this automatically because, as you may know, anytime you're, like, say, injured, your body's injured, what happens? Your body immediately starts changing your posture, changing the way you do things in order to cater to the, protect the weak area and cater to the strong area. If you're right-handed and you're using your left hand, you're like that. Your right hand wants to come in and take that burden, and because it's strong, it knows what it's doing. It's better there, and it knows it. Subconsciously, it knows it. And so they may, like, change it over to try to move it to a strong area, and all you got to do is shift again. If they try to change the battlefield to where they're strong, shift it back to where they're weak. Shift it again. It's like a dance. Shift it again. If they realize that they're vulnerable, because some people do, they're like, oh crap, I don't feel very comfortable in this area. They try to shift it, and then you immediately shift it again to another area that you're strong in. Not a single time ever in my entire life has anyone realized that I was shifting the battleground. And what do you think happened? I won, and won, and won, and won, and won. Because they were weak there. I was not. And it was by design. Now, I have done the other side too, where it's like I went against someone in their strong area. What do you think happened? Boom, lost. It's pretty consistent too. And so once I started applying some of these principles, and they're not that hard to apply. You just have to pick one and just run with it, and just kind of like play around with it, practice it a little bit, and you'll be amazed. But it's like over and over and over again. It's like I win, I win, I win, I win. It's like no matter the situation, I win, I win, I win. And it got to the point where I was just like, of course I'm gonna win. I always win. And that's over time that I developed that, because I was consistently winning, because I was applying one of the greatest books of human history with that, and no one really realized I was doing this. I mean, I explained it to a couple people, generally not anyone I was against, and it was just kind of like that the light bulb goes on. They're like, holy crap, like, you did what? It's like, yeah, I changed the battlefield on them. I changed it again. They tried to get their footing, I changed it again. I kept them off balance, and I kept them basically where they're vulnerable. And I did this in almost every environment you can imagine, including physical. And I'm going to talk about something that I've not really talked about much, and this may trigger you, and that's okay. Is that if you ever consider warfare in general, say for instance, when America attacked Iraq, whether or not you agree with it or not, think about how they did it. They burst in, they basically wiped them out in like a day or 3 or something. Overwhelming. That they never had a chance. What about the Germans in World War II? When they rolled in with Blitzkrieg, they overwhelmed their opposition. Their opposition never had a chance against them. Poland never had a chance of beating the Nazis. And they did it again and again and again. Now, did you hear nations crying about, oh, that was so unfair. How could you? You know, what kind of person are you? That was so unfair. Maybe a couple people did, but in general, when a nation engages in warfare, they use a concept of overwhelming force. They have new terms for it. It's like, and the Germans called it blitzkrieg. The Americans now call it shock and awe. Basically, you shock them. It's like, in the art of war, it talks about this. It's like, if the fight isn't to your advantage, don't fight. Now, someone may call you a coward for this, but that's okay. It doesn't matter, because while they start perceiving you as a coward, that's your advantage. They're like, oh, he's a coward, or she's a coward. She won't basically face me on my battleground. Of course, you're not facing them on battleground because you're too smart for that. You're basically, let them chase you. Even you can use the metaphorical sense or literal sense. Let them chase you. Let them chase you right into the freaking trap you've laid for them. Let them walk their own arrogance and stupidity right into the trap. What is it? Pride goes before fall. If you let them believe what they want to believe, then you can use that to your advantage too. And then when you're ready, turn and you basically hit them so freaking hard that it's basically like a pro fighter beating up on a child because it's so overwhelming. And you leave them with that, like, what just happened? What the hell just happened? Basically, person turned around and KO'd me like I was nothing. And you know what? They will almost never return for a second one because you've literally shocked them. They can't believe what just happened. But they assumed you're weak. They assumed you're stupid. And that's another thing. Never, ever, I don't know if this is actually in the art of war or not, but I'm pretty sure it is, and if it isn't, it should be. Never, ever assume that your opposition is an idiot, because that will lead you to make critical mistakes that you cannot afford. Always assume that they have at least some semblance of intelligence. That's where you talk about watching them. Gather your research. Don't just go in there like blindly. So if you apply these things, you will see victory after victory after victory after victory. It's amazing. I've used these concepts for years, and it's like I win so many times, so many. It's like got to the point where the idea of being defeated is almost like unthinkable. It's like, that's just not me. This just doesn't happen. I'll change the battleground a dozen times if I have to, but I'll get it eventually. I'll come around the side. They call me every name in the book, but I'll come around the side, come from behind. I'll strike for where they're weak. If they change it to where they're strong, I'll change it again. And because I've never, most people will never know what you're doing. They have no clue what you're doing. Because they don't read. But let's get real, they don't read. If you're one of those people that will read and apply, you will like blow them out of the water. Maybe literally, if that's your thing. But these are like secrets of the art of war. A $4 book. A $4 book. If you apply them, you can be undefeatable. Because you're fighting people here, but you're thinking here, way above them. And they can't bridge that gap. They're not used to it. In essence, you're defeating them will actually promote them to change and grow. So you're actually even doing them a service. Because they will be like, whoa, that person just wiped me off the face of the map like it was nothing. I never saw it coming. Maybe I need to rethink how I do things, because I just got owned, schooled, and I never saw it coming. You may actually be doing them a service, but at the same time you're doing yourself a service in whatever way this works for you. So, if you like this stuff, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. I will be doing more things like this because these things are just amazing. This is the first time I've openly shared these concepts openly in the context I'm using them. So if you apply them, you will get results. I can guarantee that. You will get results because these concepts are proven. 3,000 years of proof just in writing alone. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next video.